The mini driver hype has never been bigger, especially with all the big name brands FOMOing in to the newest gold rush when it comes to the game of golf. But is this just another senseless money grab? Or is there actually something behind these miniature monsters? And if that is the case, do you need a newer one, or is actually the older ones better for you? Guys, how are you doing? And welcome back to a brand new video. Simon here, SAS Golf Academy, and let's talk mini drivers. Let's talk the price of mini drivers, the cheaper options of mini drivers, and realistically, who are they for? Are they going to give you anything, or is it just another hyped up reason for you to part with your cash? Because even though I've got 3 different mini drivers here, ranging in different prices, and also we'll talk about the future of mini drivers and where that's definitely going to go in the second-hand market. However, all these mini drivers are slightly different, but let's be honest, when we come to mini drivers, we think of one thing and one thing only, and that is accuracy off the tee. There is not a golfer on this planet that smokes their driver 95% of the time straight down the middle and thinks, actually, I might put a mini driver in the bag that goes less distance. And it's for that reason and that reason alone we see very little mini drivers on tour, because distance is an advantage, and we've got clubs here that are going to be higher lofted. Shorter length in driver shaft, meaning less club head speed. So why on earth do multiple lessons of mine that turn up with these drivers swear by them, and even I am amazed of the benefits of this club in their hands with their swings and their faults in terms of the kind of drives they're able to get? I actually saw this great article on ShotScope's website. It's talking about driver and 3-wood accuracy. Obviously, they've got thousands of people that use it. And not only can they determine fairways found and the percentage of it, depending on that handicap level, but also distance. And surprisingly, across the board, between 8 handicappers to 20 handicappers, there wasn't much difference in terms of fairways found with a 3-wood compared to a driver. And I think as a general consensus, we would have all said hitting a shorter length in shaft with more loft would produce more fairway woods, especially in a high percentage than like 2-3%. However, what the data doesn't account for is the really destructive shot. I'm talking about that OB shot that goes straight out to the right-hand side. Longer the shaft, the bigger surface area on the head, so we're maybe not focusing as much on trying to find the middle. The more I see those typical players come very over the top, face incredibly open, and we just see it very much sailing out to the right-hand side like that. And that right there is demoralizing and quite difficult to commit to on a golf course. The tailor-made burner copper mini driver. I'll show you some second-hand prices here. It basically goes for what it was brand new, especially in this kind of condition. The one previous had BRNR on the bottom of it. And I actually have to say, even though I'm going to put this head as more of the all-rounder head, mixing between the other 2 mini driver heads that I have, I love the way TaylorMade has gone down this nostalgic route. Obviously, the R7 has just recently come out, and I think it's clever because, let's be honest, back in the day, drivers did look a lot more like this. We didn't have these massive, large 10K heads. We would almost have to go to the 300 series TaylorMade head to start seeing some kind of discount on these mini driver heads. And it's around this time that TaylorMade started making their mini driver heads that much bigger, 300cc. Yes, this gives us more forgiveness on off-center hits, but now almost makes it impossible to hit off the fairway. This is now a driver replacement, not an addition to your golf bag. And also, massive thank you to everyone that downloaded my Perfect Driver on a Budget course over the weekend. It's been great to getting to know a lot of you guys. Obviously, I've offered a free swing analysis still with that course, so obviously check the link in bio. But we talked a lot about head, we talked a lot about shaft, we talked a lot about static loft, and what that does for you, as well as how your swing affects your ball flight and how you can tinker your technique and tinker your shaft and driver makeup to obviously make you find more fairways. Because there's absolutely no question when I'm standing over this thing how much more control I have over the head. Just the way it's balanced in terms of, yes, it's a shorter length in shaft, but all these manufacturers that are building these mini drivers, they feel incredibly balanced. So many people, when they start this game, get so used to hitting their 7-iron on the range and hitting down on it, just never releasing the club, very much as leading with the left hand. So when they get to the driver, well, of course, it definitely looks a bit like that. And regardless of your swing path and angle attack at this point, we're not looking just for brute distance, we're looking at find a fairway. Club face control is so crucial in this game. And if one of these mini drivers at least gives you this feeling of this right arm and elbow straightening up at impact and you actually squaring that face up naturally, then well, I'm all for it. Because if that gives you the feeling and then you apply that to a more traditional driver, well, then it's going to make a huge difference to your game. Mini driver, not so mini driver from Callaway. We are now in the 340cc area, and this thing is a bit of a brute. Now, both of these drivers are on the neutral setting, as you can see here, but you must notice, especially for the Callaway, and obviously this was their first installment in terms of a mini driver, it definitely sits a bit more, let's say, closed. And with, let's say, that bigger head in general, I mean, giving me a lot of confidence, especially when I'm standing over the ball, which is why I'm going to put this in the high handicapper head type. Doesn't have to be, but a bigger the head, the higher the launch. Just as I explained throughout my course, it has a direct impact on your dynamic loft. The bigger the head, the more forgiveness. Now, for the players that swing faster and actually add too much loft to the ball, that's why I suggested the tailor-made, and also they'll probably go find the middle more. This particular head type and shaft length is good for that player that's a touch slower, still comes over the top, needs that forgiveness because it's a very inefficient way of finding the middle of the face, but it's going to help keep the ball up in the air and give them ultimate confidence. So they can kind of hit that squirty fade. Not that I can do it, I have the opposite problem. The two criticisms I have at the moment for this is TaylorMade have been making mini drivers for a while. So even though they're still quite expensive because of the supply, you can find older mini drivers for around £200. The older ones around 100, which we'll cover in a second. Callaway have just been doing it. Titleist have just been doing it. PXG have just started doing it. And obviously the other brands might follow suit as well. This could be a great driver for a lot of you, but it is quite premium. As I say, I'm not too sure how valuable the Callaway mini drivers are going to be in the future. And you could invest £400 this year, and with the massive supply influx, could be back down to 200, 220, maybe even lower, just like traditional drivers. The other criticism is, if you really want high launch and you really want high forgiveness, you need a bigger driver. Just get a higher lofted driver, 13 degrees, AI Smoke Max, I'll show you one here on the right hand side, or even a Rogue ST Max that's draw bias, that's going to help you close that face, and just grip down the driver shaft. Get a soft, whippy, low kick point driver shaft, and that might do the trick for you, rather going down this very expensive at the moment, explorational kind of driver set makeup, when there could be a more affordable option out there already for you. Which brings me on to my last option, the cheapest option, arguably the safest option, and most versatile. The reason I say versatile is the other two I'd be scared to take off the deck. This thing, on the other hand, I mean, that is just delightful. Back when mini drivers were mini drivers, and as you can see here, this one's had a fair bit of use off the deck, and as I just showed you there, what great advantage to have with that. The majority of these mini drivers were never less than 14 degrees, and that's because of the head type. You can see how small it is compared to that, and I just discussed about head type, how it adds launch. So if you have a smaller head, like a 3-wood for example, you're going to need more loft to keep that dynamic loft there, as well as balance that kind of forgiveness. And again, I keep asking myself this question, what are we wanting? Are we wanting bigger heads with 10K drivers, or are we wanting smaller heads with more precision? Because we keep getting more heads every year, but not really that many answers. For you guys that love a fairway wood, and for whatever reason your driver never works, you've tried multiple heads, multiple shafts, and you just don't get on with the thing, this is your next best option. It looks like a fairway wood. It's going to give you the power of a tiny bit more distance, but then again, you are trading forgiveness compared to the other two. But if you love hitting your 3-wood all the time, you're not going to be missing the middle of the face anyway, and this is going to give you more forgiveness than what that is. Not to mention, with its more compact head, tiny bit more loft, Interestingly, I haven't really seen that much loss of distance in this particular head type compared to the other two. I mean, that's nearly got, what, 300 yards, 116 miles an hour. I've seen mini drivers work wonders for many golfers. However, the whole goal is to try and get the mini driver out the bag so you can get even more distance with a real driver. The only saving grace is mini drivers held their price so well because TaylorMade was the only one feeding demand, and now with so many other manufacturers coming into the market, buying a brand new one of these and using it for a season just to then learn how to hit your driver could be quite an expensive mistake when the demand drops and the supply keeps getting higher. Guys, thank you ever so much for watching this video. As I say, free analysis still with my online course on my website. Any questions, be sure to message me, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.